Hello, everyone. This is Dikshak from the team OIG. I welcome you all in yet another interesting OIG session. And today we have a wonderful speaker all the way from Maine, USA. She's a health blogger and having a much knowledge on the topic of digestive and autoimmune disorders. Her name is Miss Loreal. Loreal, I welcome you on behalf of our team OIG. Thank you for joining with us. Now, without the further ado, we would like you to take over.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So I will just share my screen now. Right. Can you guys see it okay?
It's visible.
Perfect. So perfect. Yes, my name is Loreal, and I am currently a senior in my undergraduate program, actually in international business. And with that, I have been accepted to CCNM, which is the Canadian College of Naturopathic Medicine in Toronto, Canada. So I will be attending there starting next year. But with this, like you said, I have been blogging and I have my own website, just sharing my own health experiences, specifically for digestive and autoimmune disorders. And so today I want to talk about how you can better guide your patients through dietary changes. I think this is such an important topic and one that's very personal to me. So I'm excited to be sharing it with all of you in hopes that you can better assist your current patients or your future ones. So this is just kind of an outline of what I will go over. I think it's important to first start off with the foundations of naturopathy. And then I'll go into how to guide your future patients and then my own experience with doctors and dietary changes. So first talking about the foundations of naturopathy, these are found from an oath. It's a naturopathic doctor's oath that students recite when they first get to naturopathic school, and one's for them to kind of remember while going through being a student and then into being a doctor. And so first I want to start off from the beginning. I'm going to focus mainly on the last three, which are addressing the fundamental causes of disease, healing the whole person through individualized treatment, and then teaching the principles of healthy living and preventative medicine. So I'm going to focus on those last three. And so starting off with addressing the fundamental causes of disease, when being educated in naturopathy, at least here in North America, in most states or provinces, you will be legally able to give a diagnosis to your patient, whatever that diagnosis may be. Now, you have to fully understand what that diagnosis is and means for your patient and their lifestyle prior to giving it to them. So as an example, if your patient has Hashimoto's, which is an autoimmune condition of the thyroid, then you may want to give them the advice of going gluten-free for a certain amount of time. Many doctors here do that. And so as we know, gluten is in a lot more than just bread and pasta. Gluten is found in so many things, pretty much every snack food you can imagine. It's even found in shampoos and lotions, all of that. And so you have to warn your patient of this because they might not know about it. With, say, celiac, it's critical that they get the information they need, because if they happen to partake in gluten, then they could have major consequences. And so you have to make sure you give them all of the information that you have been medically trained in. And so knowing that you have let your patient know about their diagnosis and their new diet, now what do you think is going through their mind? They're probably a little bit overwhelmed that you just gave them this information because it's something new. It's something they're going to have to deal with. It's a whole new lifestyle. But ahead of time, you should already know your patient pretty well and know their diet and their lifestyle to be able to figure out how much of an impact this is really going to be. Maybe you think it won't be too much of an impact, but for some people, changing your diet is the worst thing. And a lot of people get severely depressed just due to it. So that's something to consider prior to the diagnosis. So what is individualized treatment? And so for the next of the foundations, this is what I want to talk about. I think it's one of the most important things in healthcare right now. And so what is individualized treatment? Well, it takes into account the patient's preferences and worries. So this means that while you treat them with all of your knowledge from school, from medical school, you also take into account their feelings and preferences. So you need to listen to your patient, you need to hear their concerns and address them in a caring way, along with spending time with them to ensure they get the care that they deserve. And this might seem very basic, but I have, and I know a lot of other people have dealt with doctors that really don't practice this way and only spend 15 minutes with you. And what I love about naturopathic medicine is naturopathic doctors spend a lot more than just 15 minutes with you. They think about all of your health and really take the time to explain everything to you. So I think it's very important. And so as someone who has dealt upfront with doctors not giving me all of the information I've had at the time, I know just how important this can really be. And I'll go into my own experience with that in a little bit. So why is individualized treatment important? Well, to start, it helps the patient both with overall satisfaction of their healthcare and you as their healthcare provider. But it also helps them gain just a better understanding of their health and illness and healthy living in general, which I think is really the main goal as naturopathic doctors, is to educate the community, the people, all of your patients on healthy living, and just we all try to live the healthiest we can. And so teaching the principles is the last of the foundations. And so healthy living and preventative medicine, although should not be new to people, it very much is. And so that's one thing I love about naturopathic doctors is they're not just handing out prescriptions and diagnosing disease. They really embrace teaching the overall aspect of healthy living and preventative care. And so they realize that the path towards healing requires all aspects of your health, which is more than just your physical health or test results. Naturopathic doctors really go into how your diet is, how your mental health is, environmental toxins, stress levels, and so on. So they really look at everything, which is something that I really love. And so going into my own experience, how I got into health and wanting to become a naturopathic doctor is primarily my own health journey that really led me there. As you can probably tell, because I'm a current business major, but about 2 years ago, as a sophomore in my undergraduate program, I became incredibly sick with chronic stomach pain. It landed me 3 doctor's appointments at least. It landed me 2 emergency room visits, and I had to miss a lot of school and work because I was in this chronic state of stomach pain. I also got full directly after eating just a bite of food. I was nauseous all of the time. And so I went to these doctor's visits and these emergency room visits, and at the time, the doctors had no idea what was going on with me. They tested me for a few things, but they were convinced it was just a food allergy. And so because they thought it was a food allergy, they put me on an elimination diet. Now, I knew deep down that this was not a food allergy. Something was going on with me, and I felt like I had absolutely no help because the doctors did not care to listen about what I thought about how I was sick. So they weren't listening to, oh, their patient is very persistent on this not being a food allergy. Instead of testing her more, we're just going to put her on this elimination diet. So the elimination diet did nothing because it's not a food allergy. And so that was about 4.5 to 5 months. I was in chronic pain and the doctors did nothing. And so I was finally able to get an endoscopy procedure where they went in with a camera inside my stomach just to see if anything was going on. So I finally got that. And although the procedure showed nothing, luckily my doctor did know a little bit about stomach conditions. And so he did mention this stomach disorder called gastroparesis. And that is one of the main things I blog about. And so gastroparesis is a stomach disorder where your stomach acts paralyzed, which doesn't allow your food to pass through. And so that's why I was getting nauseous. That's why I was in chronic pain all the time. Whereas my primary care doctor just thought it was a food allergy and didn't care to test me any further. And so a few weeks later, I got the test to confirm that I did have this stomach condition. And why I'm really telling you this is just for the fact of, I went through 4.5 to 5 months of chronic pain and my doctors really not listening to anything I was saying. Now, if they had have listened, I like to think that 4.5 to 5 months would have been only 1 month of time. But instead, it really affected my grades, it affected my work, just all aspects of my life. And so once I got this stomach diagnosis, all they told me was to eat small meals. And since I had already lost about 30 pounds within that 4.5 to 5 months, which was a lot for me, they told me that I needed to get enough calories in my diet to make sure I didn't lose any more weight, which is understandable. So my doctor actually told me to consume a lot of olive oil. He told me that olive oil is great in calories, so to put it on everything if I need to. And so other than eating small meals and consuming olive oil, that's all the guidance I had with this newly found stomach disorder that the doctors hardly knew anything about. And so that was it. So what I had to do as a patient after, I think, to be more than what an average patient should have to do for their health. And so once I got this diagnosis, I had to dive into research. I had to research just every single thing about this stomach disorder I could possibly find to help myself out, because eating small meals and consuming olive oil was not fixing my chronic pain. Actually, the thing that did fix my chronic pain was acupuncture. And it's something I go to regularly, and it completely changed my life. And that's another thing. Acupuncture was the huge reason why I'm going into naturopathic medicine, because it took away my stomach pain about 99% within one session. It was insane. And so I dove into research. I bought as many books as I can on the stomach disorder. I contacted people on social media that had the same diagnosis as me. And I really had to dive into all aspects of my health. So I looked at my physical health, my mental health, everything I was doing at work. I ended up quitting a very stressful job when I didn't have a backup for a job, because that very much affected my health. And so I got a new job now and it's so much better. But I really had to dive into all aspects of my health and break it down, just because at the time I didn't have a naturopathic doctor. I really didn't know what naturopathic medicine was. And that's not something that regular medical doctors here let you know about, because that's not something they practice. And so now my diet is severely limited. I don't have gluten, I don't have dairy, I can't have too much meat because it doesn't digest well. I can't have raw vegetables or raw fruit. I can't have nuts or seeds. So it's very, very condensed. And So when you think about just foods that irritate the stomach, that's just half of the food out there, at least. And so all of this I had to find out on my own. Um, the doctors didn't say, hey, you have this stomach disorder. Here is a list of foods that are most likely very hard for your stomach to break down. You should probably avoid them. I had to kind of figure that out 100% on my own. And now my symptoms are 95% gone, and I live a fairly normal life, which is great. So if you asked me 2 years ago that I would be attending medical school next year, I would have laughed. It's definitely not something that was on my mind 2 years ago, but I am incredibly grateful to be going to naturopathic medical school next year because I can't imagine doing anything else. I think the healthcare system, especially here in North America, I'm not entirely sure how it is in other countries, but it needs a lot of help. And so I'm excited to go into naturopathic medicine in hopes that I can really be at least a change in it, at least for my own patients, for them to get the care that they really deserve. Because I think that's what it really comes down to is wanting to help your patients get the care that they really deserve because it's their health and not yours. So I understand that we will be at least all educated and go to medical school, but when we're helping our patient, it's primarily for them. It's not for us. It's their health. So we have to make sure we listen to their concerns because that is all that matters. So unfortunately, my story kind of starts from my own experience of health, not what really got me into medical school. So jumping into helping your patient with dietary changes. So how can you help them? I think it's incredibly important for me to have gone over the foundations of naturopathy, just because I think it really helps break down what you should be doing as a naturopathic doctor and how you should really be helping your patient. So here are just a few things I would have found helpful if I had a doctor who really cared about getting me all the help that I could for my disorder. And so first you have to explain thoroughly and break it down, whatever you're telling your patient. So if you just diagnosed your patient with this rare stomach disorder or with this thyroid condition, make sure you explain it thoroughly. And so make sure you break it down so they know how it's going to impact them, whether it's short-term or long-term impact. Make sure that they understand what their day-to-day lifestyle should be. So if you're putting them on this new diet, they need to understand really exactly what that diet is and make sure they understand it. Because if they don't understand their diet and how it's going to positively help them, they're most likely not going to stay with that diet at all. So I remember my doctor saying, hey, maybe you should be gluten-free, but that's probably not it. So I'm like, okay, should I be gluten-free or should I not be gluten-free? I had no idea. I tried it for about a month and I didn't see any difference. Little did I know at the time, it takes more than a month being off gluten before you really feel any difference from it. So just make sure you explain it thoroughly and break it down, because as much as doctors love using medical terminology, you're fresh out of medical school, you just love using all of that medical terminology. Your patient didn't go to med school, at least I'm assuming. And so they have no idea what you're talking about. So just make sure if you do use medical terminology that you really explain it after, because if you don't, they will have no idea what's going on with their health, and they will probably think it's a lot scarier than it probably is. So just make sure you explain. And so next, I have had many, many doctors that have the attitude of not wanting their patients to ask questions. I'm not sure if anyone else can relate to this, but there are many doctors that don't want their patients questioning them. And I do not like that at all. I don't like that attitude, because as a primary care physician, you should be willing and ready to answer any questions. and you should be inviting your patient to ask questions, because this, once again, is their health, it's not yours. And so if they're questioning a medication you're putting them on, I think they should be. They should always, I always question what medication a doctor is putting me on, because I want to make sure I'm comfortable with it. Because once again, if I'm not comfortable with it, then I'm not going to continue with it. As an example, I had an antibiotic. A doctor put me on an antibiotic for my stomach condition, which of course did absolutely nothing because I did not have an infection. And so they put me on this antibiotic, but I didn't feel comfortable with it. I ended up stopping it halfway through, which is not what you should do with an antibiotic, but I didn't know that at the time because they did not teach me that. And so it ended up just hurting me even more. It ended up hurting my stomach even more. Antibiotics are very hard on the stomach. I wasn't taking a probiotic or anything like that to help counteract. And so just always invite your patient to ask any questions, and always take the question and not think that they are having no faith in you or they're questioning you as a doctor. Take it as, wow, this person is very interested in their own health, and I'm really happy for that. So after that, understand that it's new to them. And I have kind of touched on this a bit, but just understand that whatever you're giving them, the new diet, the new diagnosis, it is very new to them and most likely overwhelming. And so if that means you invite them to come back for another appointment, maybe a week later, or if you want to set up a phone call or a Zoom conference to sit down with them and just to explain it again a week later, because most likely they're going to feel extremely overwhelmed. And I think it's important to allow your patient a good amount of time to be able to process it before giving them additional information, or at least you should maybe a week later kind of bounce back and remind them of what you told them a week ago, type of thing. And then, of course, any additional help you can give is greatly appreciated by the patient. And so this could be in the form of recipes or a couple weeks of meal plans, books to read, blogs, any research you found, anything that will help the patient be able to maybe read and take home, I think is a great way to give them additional help. And so I think with all of that, any additional help is just going to help them be successful with the new diet. And then lastly, just to help them understand that they're not alone. And so changing your diet can be extremely hard for some people, especially when they're not used to eating a certain way. I remember being very depressed that I could not eat most foods out there. I had absolutely no idea. It honestly took me about a year before I was happy with what I was able to eat. And now, about 2 years later, I'm perfectly fine. I feel like I eat pretty normal. But for that full year, I was going through a really, really hard time. And I felt like my doctors gave me absolutely no guidance. And so I was just kind of out there on my own. But if I had the additional help, if I had them understand that, hey, you're not alone, there's other people out there with this disorder, I think that year of me feeling completely helpless would have been greatly shortened. And that would have helped my mental health for sure, a significant amount. Also helping them understand they're not alone, give them any form of assurance that there are support groups out there. There's online support groups for pretty much anything. So that is one thing that you can help them with, just to make sure that they really aren't alone, because that's the one thing that helped me, was reaching out to people online. That's really all around the world. I speak to one girl that's in Portugal who has the same condition as me, and we've really helped each other with food guides and all of that to be able to, live fairly normally. And so I guess in closing, I just want to reiterate the fact that you should always, as a doctor, be considering the patient at all times. Always, always remember that you're there for the patient. You're there to help the patient in any way you can. Now, that doesn't mean bending over backwards every single time. You know, there has to be a line drawn somewhere. But I think there is I think the healthcare system can just be so much better than it is. I think we all realize that in this world that healthcare is struggling a bit right now, but I'm hoping as naturopathic doctors, we can really help all of our patients, help the community realize how to live a healthier life, especially in times like right now. We need all the help that we can get health-wise. And so just understand that you went to medical school, they did not. Their health is really what matters. So just try to help them as much as you can and realize that dietary changes can be a struggle for a lot of people. It may not seem like it to you if you've never had to go through a diet change, but for some people that have to switch around their entire lifestyle, especially here in America, we're kind of known to have the American diet of fast food and junk food. And so if you've kind of grown up that way, which thankfully I did not, but I've spoken to a lot of people who have, and then having to switch around and not eating any of that, only eating completely healthy vegetables, fruits, meats, all of that. It can be a real struggle for people. So just kind of remember that. But I think that is it. Do you guys have any questions or comments?
Yeah, there were several questions I have right now, but before I ask, there is one participant of us who wants to ask you some questions. So I would like Ms. Arundhati to take over and ask the questions to her first.
Hello, my name is Arundhatikar. I am pursuing BNY's first year over in India, in Bangalore, from SBS University. So my question to you is that, so when you're speaking about dietary changes, could you recommend any dietary changes to a child who is in a growing stage?
Um, I don't think I should really comment on this just because I am not a doctor, so I really can't give any advice. But I think just being able to, I mean, it really depends because if your child is struggling health-wise in any way, then you should definitely go and see a doctor or a naturopathic doctor to really break down, because if they are having any form of difficulty, like if you think they might have a gluten intolerance or a dairy intolerance just from what you've seen, because you've seen them eat, and any symptoms they may have after that, then I'd definitely say you can experiment with it and go see a doctor. But overall, I mean, I think we all understand what healthy eating is. And so as a kid, I think it's very important to um, make sure your child is getting all of the nutrients they need and eating the rainbow. We like to say here is eating a vast variety of foods, is kind of eating the rainbow of vegetables. So making sure your child has everything they should be getting.
Okay, and the second question, like I have a little bit of doubt in that. So, what dietary modification would you recommend for a normal person, like a day-to-day lifestyle with a no disease person?
Again, I'm not entirely sure just because, I mean, I have not gone to medical school myself, so I really can't say too much. But again, I think eating the same as you should be feeding your child. And I think it's really important because I feel like here in America, a lot of people eat differently than their kids. They'll kind of give their kids the junk food, the easy preparation food. But in reality, you and your child should really be eating the same. So making sure you get your protein and your healthy fats, your vegetables, your meats, your starches. I think all of that is very important. So I don't think there's just a diet you should really be focusing on. I don't really like the thought of um, if you're this age, you should be eating this, or if you're a woman, you should eat this way versus a man. I think it really just, all of our health is very different. So we all are different. And there's this saying that you are what you eat. And for someone that has a digestive disorder like myself, we say you are what you absorb. And I think that's very true because you got to make sure your body is absorbing all the nutrients you're getting. So it's very important to just fuel your body with um, the best food possible.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
L'Oreal, I have some questions. As
Mhm.
you said, that there is an experience you had been diagnosed with the GP, right?
Yep.
So I think when the patient comes to us, and there are some things that patient is right now diagnosed, so there is a mental status of the patient is not particularly good. So how to deal with those kind of a patients? Because if you are recommending a particular diet to them, then first we need to check the mental status of the patient, I guess. So how would you recommend for that?
I would definitely say, I guess it really depends on the patient because if you think this is going to be the hardest thing for them, they're not great in a mental state, like, um, I would honestly suggest to them, some people will take it in, I guess it depends. The first thing I would say is just counseling, any sort of therapy to help them through it. Um, And another thing too is seeing a nutritionist. And so that's one of the things I did when I got diagnosed is I saw a nutritionist that really sat down with me, helped reassure me that I wasn't alone, and gave me the food guidance I really needed at the time. And so I ended up going and seeing a nutritionist. But as far as, and I think that did help me with my mental health. But I think further, if I was worse off, I would probably go see a counselor or like a therapist and really get the help I needed there. Because I do see and speak to a lot of people that are severely depressed. And if you go to a medical doctor severely depressed over this new diet, they most likely will give you an antidepressant, which is just, as someone with a stomach disorder, is going to make it 10 times worse. And so I think it's important to, as a naturopathic doctor, at least, I think it's important to offer other services first, such as counseling, seeing a therapist, looking at support groups, and asking if they have any family members that can help them with it. Because if I didn't have my family help me with my digestive disorder, I'm not quite sure what I would do. Now, if they don't have that much of family there to support them, then I would highly suggest um, reaching out to them and asking, like, kind of guiding them to seeing some sort of therapist or support group.
Another question I have is for you is that apart from the patients, there are some healthy peoples, and now if we are recommending them a diet, so main thing of that is they can't resist the favorite foods they have. So how would you recommend the people who wants to cut off the junk food and all and shift to the diet of a healthy diet? So it's hard for the patients or I can say healthy people to cut off the favorite foods.
Um, so you're saying if they're a healthy person and they want to themselves switch to a healthier diet, is that what you mean?
Yeah, that is what exactly I mean.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I would be all for it. I mean, junk food's not good for you. I don't think anyone should really be consuming the amount of processed food we have here in this world. Um, and so, I mean, I would be all for it. And are you guys still there?
Yeah, yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. So I would definitely be willing to help them go from all of this processed junk food to a healthier diet. I don't see where that would ever really be a problem. Um, if it completely switched over their lifestyle, like if they're eating only junk food, I might want to ease them into eating healthy. I just think it would probably be a little bit hard on their stomach to go from eating hamburgers and french fries to salads all the time. So I think digestive wise, I would probably ease them into it a bit.
But how if a patient is telling me that this is not I can do right now, so if as a doctor how should I recommend the patient that this is thing you should apply? That is what I'm asking, because we know that the junk foods it's not healthy, but some healthy persons are not following the particular patterns of the healthy foods.
I'm sorry, can you repeat your question? I just want to make sure I'm getting it correctly.
Yeah, actually, I wanted to ask that if the person is coming to you and they are, having a junk food right now, and but still they are healthy. It's not that they are having a condition, particular condition,
Okay.
but so how would you recommend them to follow the healthy diet?
Okay. I would definitely, I mean, for myself, I would, of course, speak to them. It might not be just a one doctor's appointment or one session talk. I think someone like that would be multiple doctor's appointments to kind of convince them. Overall, I think like everyone knows what healthy is and what healthy is not. Now, if you're in perfect health and you're eating complete junk food, I would be very interested to see how the patient is mentally and how they are with their energy, because they can be 100% healthy, but maybe they get chronically fatigued at 3 p.m. Or maybe they have really bad anxiety. But if they're in completely good, perfect health, they feel fine, they're eating junk food, I, as a doctor, would never offer them to, I would never suggest that they continue with their lifestyle like that, just because there's so many statistics and studies out there of um, people with heart disease because they eat junk food all the day, all the time. So there's plenty of studies out there to give to your patient or let them know about of people who eat junk food all the time. So there might not be, they might not be seeing the effects of it now, but I think as the older they get, they're definitely going to. So I'm not sure if a completely healthy, good weight uh, person exists that's eating junk food all the time. If there is, I would love to meet them.
Uh, I think I wanted to ask one question, which is you mentioned that you have writing a blog and you recommend the particular recipes, right? So,
Yep.
what would your personalized recipe? We would love to know that. Any you have a particular personalized recipe for the patient and for the healthy people as well?
So something, I guess one food in general I do eat a lot of because it's easy on my stomach is rice. And there is just so much you can do with rice. Um, I have a lot of stir fry. So there's not like a specific recipe I really use. I kind of just combine what I have in the refrigerator. And so there are on my blog, there are gluten-free and vegan or dairy-free recipes I have on there of pancakes and muffins and like sort of breakfast foods. But as far as like lunch and dinners, I eat quite a bit of chicken and rice and the easier to digest vegetables. So I eat a lot of spinach and squash and sweet potato um, and sort of stuff like that. So I don't have a specific recipe, I would say, but I do have, I'm actually going to be coming out with a downloadable list of foods that are good for the gastroparesis diet, at least, and Hashimoto's. And I'm going to put that up on my blog just as a kind of general guide, just to, I don't know, I think it's kind of fun to open the fridge and just throw a bunch of stuff together and eat it.
All right. Is there any particular recommendations for the people who is watching right now? You and if you won't like to give them a particular recommendations for the lifestyle and
Yeah,
everything.
yeah. I mean, I would just say eat healthy, see a naturopathic doctor if you're not already. And to students and to doctors, medical doctors, or naturopathic doctors already, I would say to just remember why you became a doctor or why you want to become a doctor. And just always hold on to your reason why, because I think that will correlate into you helping your patients quite a bit. So I'm holding on to what I went through as an experience with the healthcare system. I'm going to hold on to that and treat my patients and give my patients the healthcare that they deserve. And I think that's really important to just always remember your why and realize that um, it's your patient's health that is the most important. They're coming to you because they need help. And I think that's just incredibly important to remember as you practice medicine.
One last and final question. As you said that you have tried all the doctors out there, allopathy and everything. So what made you interested in naturopathy first place? And what is your journey with the naturopathy till now?
So mine really stemmed from my experience. I Once I was in that chronic state of pain, I needed some way to decrease that level of chronic pain I was feeling. And so I had a couple family members that said, hey, you should try acupuncture. And I put it off for a couple months. So that was kind of my own fault. But by the time I went to my first acupuncture appointment, I was at the stage of this is the only person that I know of that can possibly help me with this chronic pain. I didn't want to take any pain medications because I was in this, I had this stomach disorder that I really can't take pain medications. I really can't take pills because they don't break down or they hurt my stomach even worse. And so when I first went to the acupuncture appointment, and I still go regularly, I go every other week, but I was going weekly for a long time. Once I went to that first appointment and it took away 99% of my pain, that's really when it started. So acupuncture was not something my medical doctor would have recommended for me. And that's really when I started learning about naturopathic medicine and natural remedies, is during that acupuncture appointment. My acupuncturist enlightened me a bit about it, and actually in the same building as my acupuncture clinic was in, there is a naturopathic doctor that practices there. And so I grabbed his card and I kind of held on to it, but I didn't do anything with it. And then months later, I ended up seeing not that naturopathic doctor, actually a different one. And my first doctor's appointment with that naturopathic doctor just completely changed what I thought healthcare was. I went from 15-minute appointments with my medical doctor to an hour appointments with my naturopathic doctor. I went from not knowing what I got out of a doctor's appointment to being completely in love with medicine. So I think that's really what did it for me, was acupuncture really got me into it. And then seeing a naturopathic doctor for myself was just, I thought was incredibly cool. I thought it was cool how she treated me and how she looked at every aspect of my health. She asked me so many questions. She tested me on what I really should have been tested on, starting from the beginning. And she spent time with me and she made me feel comfortable and like I was actually getting what I deserved. And I think that is really what brought me into naturopathic medicine and why I'm really excited to study it.
All right. Thank you, Laurel, for sharing your knowledge and everything you have experienced with us. We would glad that you have given us time and share your knowledge with us. So all the people out there
Yeah,
watching you is glad that you made us a time, and thank you for this early morning session you gave us to, because I believe there is an early morning in your time, right?
it is. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
thank you so much for this. We would like to
Yeah.
hear you
Thank you,
again
guys.
if we get a chance.
Yeah, that'd be great. Perfect. Thank you. Appreciate it. It was fun.